the farmer, the knight in shining armour, fought against injustice with his sword held high. And all his enemies used to tremble at the knees, and everywhere he went you heard his battle cry. Have at you, varlets!
Hey!
Way!
Hey!
Hi everybody, welcome to episode 13 of the All About Paisley podcast. I am Gavin, this is Rachel, and our special guest this evening is Brian. Brian's a well-known figure in town for being the manager of Abbey Books in Well Meadow Street, and it's a pleasure to have you back on the podcast, chap.
Hi, Brian.
Thank you. Oh, no. Thanks for having me back.
Clap.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to. Hey!
Way! So yes, we've got some interesting information to talk about. I'm quite excited. Not to spoil it, but we've got an item here that we'll be talking about in a couple of minutes. So we've had an interesting development, Brian, that you have launched a publishing company.
Yeah. Paisley Publishing.
Paisley's only publishing company.
Yeah. Basically, what I'm trying to do is to bring back old books in easily accessible fashion. And it began because I had the remnants of an old book, the one that we recently published, Paisley Thread, and it was falling apart. And because, for no reason really, I just started typing it out on the computer, and it took me a long while. But basically what I wanted to do was, if that had been a proper book, I would have put it on the shelves and would have sold it. And then somebody would have come in and said, you had a book here ages ago, have you sold it? And we say, yeah, that was the only one, there's no more, sorry. So I thought these kind of interesting books really needed to be brought back. So we printed that, and if anybody comes in looking for the Paisley Thread, we will have a copy of it, and if we run out, then we'll just reprint it.
Amazing.
So the idea was then to look for other subjects of Paisley interest that we could just bring back and reprint. Obviously, they're all out of copyright these days. But so the second one was going to be, I've been working on a book on Tannehill's poems and a book on the witches. So we've got various books on the witches from whenever, 1850 or whatever. And things just, where there's a lovely book that's we've got on extracts from the Paisley Daily Express from like 1920 or something.
Yes.
So just looking to and then I'm kind of compilations of bits and pieces I found in from not books on Paisley, but every time we get an old book in about Scotland, I always go to the index and see what they've written about Paisley.
Oh, yes.
And generally, often you get some little nugget of information. And so a kind of, I don't know, a miscellany, a Paisley miscellany, I guess,
Oh, yes.
might come out of that. So the idea is roughly to try and publish one a month, and therefore to have in addition to our normal local history section, to have a section of these reprinted old books. And we've also got a lot of books that have been printed more recently, which would maybe by a historical society or whatever. And generally they tend to get printed once. And once the print runs out, that's them gone. So basically we've been asking historical societies, give us your books and we'll reprint them so that we will always have them. And then...
It makes sense, doesn't it? It's such a good idea.
Yeah, and there's so much. I mean, people, we often get into conversations with people in the shop about the history of Paisley because it's once you've got a lot of books on a subject, you somehow become an authority, whether you're an authority or not. But once you start writing or typing up a book about the history of the Paisley, then you tend to know a good bit more than other people, and then you can get engaged in a good conversation.
Yeah. And just Paisley has so much amazing stories to tell.
Absolutely.
And we'd said previously how you're slap bang in the middle of all the heritage.
Absolutely.
Being in the middle of the Robert Tannehill building and the Witches Well, and then the John Witherspoon building and the Donahue versus Stevenson. So it's such a nice week.
And opposite the building that was built in 1770.
Yes.
So it's like, you think, hold on a minute, 1770? That's quite a long time ago. So it's almost like Heritage Corner of Paisley, setting aside the Abbey and the cathedral and whatnot.
Yeah, so we've got a number of books planned that we're doing. So you get the books from our shop, paisleytours.org.uk, and you'll be doing them in the Abbey Bell and through what number? Well Meadow Street.
Yeah, the only bookshop in Wellmeadow Street.
Yes,
20
the
bucks.
best.
The bookshop.
Yeah.
A big sign saying Abbey Books. So
Pretty
if
much,
you,
maybe across the,
You can't miss it.
just down from across the road from the music shop. Where was?
yeah, roughly.
Yeah,
across
roughly.
the street.
So, and then that comes on to the conversation about this book. So, a wee while back, I'd went on a bit of a journey trying to. So, I knew the previous trustees to the Thomas Coates Memorial Building, Dorothy and Alan Driver. You've met them both.
Yes.
They're lovely individuals.
Yeah.
And they were involved in the building, 15, 20 years. The primary individuals that ran it with the other trustees. But they're the most biggest knowledgeable individuals with regards to the Coates. So I was trying to get how do we get content? How do we get these things published, out there so that it's not lost? So I'd meet up with them quite regularly. And then I realised to the point that there actually is no books on the Thomas Coates Memorial Building. Built 1893, and not one. I mean, there's loads of books in the Abbey, but none in the Coates. So that kind of put me on the journey of, well, somebody needs to write a book.
Yeah.
So I'd said to them, you write the book. It's in your head, and you're like, no, we don't want to write a book. We've done our dues with regards to that building. So they said they would quite happily help me consult on writing the book. So they'd made a wee PDF that they gave me as a reference. And, I started doing the book, trying to get a narrative going. And then I spoke to yourself and I showed you the reference. And you said, well, that's the book. That's right. Yeah. So it was already done. So you can imagine my pleasure.
It's the church. I mean, when I come out of the shop, I'm staring at the church.
It's an amazing building.
And if you actually, sometimes if you go down to the bottom of see it from the bottom of a street, it looks even more immense.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Because it's in a hill and whatever, it's just a towering presence in Paisley. And I was always fascinated by it. And when I'd first met Gavin, I talked about doing a book on, as you know, I've done other books in Paisley, and I thought about doing a book on the building of the church and if they had records and the whole thing, going back and looking at all that information. I thought it'd be a fascinating story because it's such an individual piece of architecture.
It's amazing. So I love that image because that image came out before the building was actually built.
Yeah.
And pretty much what the final product looked like, apart from the front. So about 100 pages worth of every bit of information, every architect.
180 photographs are in there. It's one of the most photographic heavy books you would ever find.
It's a lovely, lovely, lovely book. The only one in existence on that building.
Yep.
And it's an absolute pleasure to be an editor involved in the making of it. So it's, the first of many we'll do, Brian, but what a way to break the seal, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And you said you'd sold out the first day when you...
The first day.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
and actually we'd had, I do know how people, Gavin talks.
yeah.
But, people knew there was a book coming out on the Coates Memorial Church, and we were getting inquiries literally the minute we'd started talking about it.
Yeah.
Took a while to get printed because printing always does take a while. Mm-hmm. But we had a lot of inquiries about it, and literally when it went on sale, it literally, so I've never had this. I mean, I've published quite a lot of books. I've never had a book sell out on its first day. So we literally had to, because of these inquiries, I knew we were going to sell out quite quickly. So I'd ordered a reprint, which is going to come in next week. But this is one of those, if you ever know MD in publishing, one of the big, I don't know what you call it, kind of landmarks in publishing is to be reprinted before publication. You often see it in old books. You often see printed this date, reprinted before publication. That's kind of like a high point of any author's career.
Right.
I'm not the author, obviously, it's the publisher. But to be able to say, this was reprinted before publication is quite. And my guess is we'll be reprinting it after this other reprint.
Yeah, I mean it's got legs. I mean, but the only one in existence. And
how much is it?
£20.
£20.
Okay.
It's a glossy. It's really a glossy book.
It's a lovely, lovely book. Yes,
and it
£20.
was expensive to print.
Yes,
basically because
but
of all the
genuinely
colour.
worth it because the amount of information that's involved
Yeah,
and the amount of detail that goes into
Yeah.
even what's the toilet? It's not a Delft pottery toilet, but it's a nice.
Royal Dalton.
So even the toilet's fancy.
Yeah. But when you get this, the kind of people who live abroad and will remember people who grew up in Paisley, they remember the church, they remember its presence, and so quite a lot of our inquiries initially were from people in Brazil, China, not China but Brazil.
Yeah.
I think we had America. People saying, "Will this be available abroad?" And we're saying, "Well, we can always post it out to you quite happily."
Either been a churchgoer, been married there, or being graduated there. It just has.
Well, everybody who's graduated. I mean, there was ones that still is the graduate. It still uses it for
I
graduation.
think it's the uni now.
Abbey.
It's the Abbey now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the Abbey,
it's
yeah.
the uni.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's a kind of got a major impact in Paisley.
Such a phenomenal building as well. Just all the fittings being original, and it's just and it's got this amazing atmosphere to it. There's these big steel cables along it for the acoustics.
Right,
So
okay.
we flew the drone in it, and luckily we saw it before it was too late. We could have hit one of them. But they've got these big steel to reverb the music down, so it's got a nice aura to it.
Yeah,
And I was starting the process of trying to get the organ working again. So I took a Matthew Hines. He's an expert consultant on the organ. Obviously, a Hill & Sons organ, and he said it's one of the top 10 most important organs globally.
Well, the Hill & Son were the guys who reinvented
Right.
the British, introduced the British to the German idea of using your feet to help the organ, the organ work.
Okay.
So they were revolutionary. So basically, Paisley managed to attract, the biggest, best-known organ manufacturer to make this fantastic organ.
Yeah, and the whole building, it's constructed in the building, even down in the basement. It's a big, massive bladder in the whole
And
basement.
You think of the Kelvin Grove Art Gallery, where every Sunday they've got an organ recital, and their organ is tiny compared to this, and yet they have people gathering every Sunday to come and they've got, I think they've got about three. It's like at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3, and so every on the hour, and you'd have thought, if you could get that organ going, you would have an incredible audience.
Yeah, hopefully get the ball rolling. I've been trying to figure out what is that, is that a 6-figure sum, is that a 7-figure sum, what's that kind of number, and just slowly getting that going.
Yeah.
So I've got the right people that are interested just to get it going again.
Yeah. Does it work at all? Or can you?
No. Well, he thinks it's an electrical scenario why it's not working, but he did manipulate with his hand, so it made noise, and I'm like, oh, it's amazing.
Right, okay.
And I'll get to go in and see the back of it. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah,
It's a wonderful experience going in
yeah.
and get to have a look at it. So hopefully we'll pick that back up next year and see how we got get going on. That'd be lovely. A bit of John Williams and Coates Memorial. It'd be amazing. Lord of the Rings or stuff like that. You never know. But yeah, so so in just regards to your shop, how would people follow you? You're quite prevalent on Instagram.
I'm only on Instagram.
Yeah. So Brian's got a lovely a system on the go that if there's an individual outside of Paisley buys a book.
Well, yeah, preferred people get their photographs taken. If you come from abroad, you're more than likely get your photograph taken. And if you buy interesting books, that's generally it. Or if you come out with a stack of.
I'm just thinking, how many books have I bought, Brian, and I've never had my picture taken?
You did have your
I'm
picture.
raging.
Did you not get your picture? Didn't they offer to get your picture in the paper? No.
No, I don't think
Well,
so.
next time
Right,
I'll try and remember your face.
Yeah.
Should be that moaning Rachel that's just come in again. That's what your tag will be, moaning Rachel.
So we had our picture taken for the paper.
Splendid.
We had people. We had a lovely couple that come up from somewhere in Ayrshire, and they went out with them. I mean, they were a photograph with a massive stack of books.
Wow.
They'd bought about 25. And
So that's
they
you
said,
trying to tell me I've got to buy you about 30?
No.
To get the loyalty card club.
They just, and one of the things is because of our very large science fiction and fantasy section, what you often find is that somebody will buy one copy of the first in a series of fantasy books. They'll buy that in Waterson's, and then they'll come to us and say, "Have you got the other 12?" And then we'll see. I'll come in one day and I'll see this massive gap on the shelves. I say, what happened there? Somebody bought them all.
Oh,
which is
the whole
which
saga.
often happens.
Oh yeah.
And we've got a big following. So We've got a big following for philosophy, which was interesting,
right.
speaking to your friend. There's a huge interest in philosophy.
amazing.
Religion and philosophy.
Must be
are quite
fantastic,
hard.
the amount of people you meet.
Yeah, it's always. Who did I meet yesterday? That was a really interesting guy. What was he? He was a. We were talking about poetry. He'd bought an old book in Tennyson, and we were talking about the impact of Tennyson's poetry on his generation.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and the importance of iambic pentameter. You know, Judi Dench always said that Shakespeare was easy to speak because of iambic pentameter. You had that automatic rhythm, which is most important for poetry. So that was fascinating. So people buy books. And if it's an old book or whatever, often it's a book I didn't know we had, because we don't have an inventory of 40,000 books. That would be impossible and crazy, because you'd no sooner been putting them on than you'd have to find a way to take them off. So people often come up with books I didn't know we had, and I'm always saying, "Oh my God, if I'd known I'd that book, I wouldn't have put it in the shelves.
Oh, yeah, amazing.
I'd have kept it for ourselves."
Oh,
and
yeah, the
read
back,
it.
the prized ones.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've got those amazing paintings on the wall as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I was trying to-
Those are the paintings and photographs of the Great and the Good of Paisley. So this seemed to be a tradition that the Great and the Good either get photographed or painted every so often. I don't know if it was annual, it might have been every 20 years, every 10 years. And as far as I can work out, they paid effectively to be in the picture by agreeing to buy a copy of it. Then whatever they did. So the biggest one we've got, the most prominent one, was a photograph in 1906. And I can't. Maybe there's at least 100 people in there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're there's a bit of jostling going on to get to the front.
To the front.
But then I think you would jostle just to get in it. You know,
Yeah.
it's that kind of prestige. I'm a Paisley dignitary.
I was trying to get pictures of it, but the glass is too shiny.
Well, we might at some point take it out and reprint it.
Amazing.
Because we've got the guides to who's who.
Uh-huh.
But that was a limited edition, so I think there was 500 copies printed. I think we've got number 6 or something. So basically, people would buy it, and then then they'd put it on show somewhere, and the public would pay tuppence to come and see it, to come and see who was the most important people in Paisley, and possibly say, well, I'm in it and you're not.
It's a good idea. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
So this will go out on Sunday. We will be 5 days away from the concert.
Yeah.
So so there's not many tickets left.
You
You come
singing?
in. You come
I'm
in.
coming.
Yay.
Yeah. I'm not singing, Basil. I'm not singing.
Well,
Basil.
we've already got that. We already started recording, so we'll have that. We'll have that for ransom. No, I'm not singing, and it's still a coin toss if I'm doing a presentation or somebody's. There will be a presentation. So basically, concert pianist, harp player, history talk, presentation of what 2024 has been, and then talking about what 2025 looks like. So we also give away about 50 tickets to our biggest followers of the page. So I put a post up saying if you get, I don't know, on Facebook you could at follower at top fan, and it just means all your top fans get a notification. But I made it too generic, and it sounded as if we were hacked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're a top fan, send us a
Claim
message
your
or an email
prize.
to claim your
People thought
prize.
it was something.
And people thought we were hacked. But thanks very much, Brian, for coming on. You're
Thank you.
absolute
Thank you
legend to the
much
town.
for- thank you much for
Very much a
inviting
big
me.
credit. Yes, any time. So I hope you have a lovely Christmas. Hope Santa's good to you.
Will do.
a good one.
Yep, and you?
And you got any plans for Christmas?
Very busy.
Is there a book you've got your eye on?
I've got loads of books I've got my eye on.
Yeah.
Whether I get to read them or get them is another story.
Yeah, so I hope you have a lovely Christmas.
Yep.
And Rachel, hope you have a lovely Christmas as well. This is our last podcast of the year.
I hope you have a lovely Christmas.
Oh
too.
yes, I get 3 kids.
And
So
everybody.
yes, did you see them in last week's podcast? I'll show you a wee video once we're finished. But they've all got bikes, so they're all going to be very happy with a
See, I
paper
never
bike.
understand why parents give kids bikes at Christmas, because it's usually too cold and wet and slippy. to
That's
actually
right.
Go on
And
them.
I think the problem's been that we've
They
been
can't go on it.
none of our kids' birthdays are in summer. They're all kind of November, December time. So
There's
we're
a bike, but you can't go
so
on
we've
it.
so we will have to, as a family, freezing cold, go out somewhere like Barshaw or something, so we can enjoy our Christmas bikes.
Yeah. Good.
But I can't wait. My wife's.
Have you got a bike?
Yeah.
All right.
My wife's birthday is the 1st of January every year. So that becomes quite, no surprise birthday parties for her. Nobody's going to come.
Does that joke work all the time?
It does work all the time. I once said to her, how about we pass in this year's birthday and you'll only be 2 years older than me than 3 years older than me, but she didn't go for that. On that note, have a good Christmas, everyone, a good New Year, and we'll see you in 2025.
Bye.
Bye for now. Bye.
Bye.